Welcome to our Devos, where we are looking at the subject, albeit uncomfortable, of how to kill adultery. As Christians, we should not have the track record for adultery that we do, but we do. There's very little difference between Christians and the world when it comes to this subject, and it's an age-old subject. So why do so many people cheat on their spouses? Why do so many people get into sexually inappropriate relationships outside of the context of marriage? How does this happen? Well, right now in our culture, 1,000%, it's because we haven't learned to bounce our eyes. I think this is a Pastor Mike type of quote, or I'm sure he got it from somewhere, and I've heard it preached in different ways, but bouncing your eyes. You see, and I could really go far into this, but we know biologically that there are things that men find attractive when it comes to their first meeting of a person that they're sexually attracted to. And there are things that women find attractive that actually are different. There's studies done on this. There's recent surveys taken from some of the dating sites like OkCupid and different things where they kind of survey some of the people that are dating on these apps and how people find one another attractive. And a lot of it comes down to how they look physically. And for the most part, this is pretty much universal. Now, women do not respond to this the same way that men do. Women typically, and I'm saying typically, because some women, you're going to say, oh, this is sexist or misogynistic. It's not trying to be. It's just biology, and it's just what we see happening in the way women choose to respond to how they find a person attractive. But one of the things that you must realize that could happen easily is when we start to see that someone is attractive and it's not our spouse, you want to bounce your eyes. What does that mean? Well, for any man that I've talked to, if you see a woman who is attractive and you know, there's plenty of attractive women and they're all over the place, you look at a woman's face and eyes. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Okay? Now, I know this is elementary. I feel like any of these devotions can be cut a certain way to make me sound like a total weirdo. But I make it a point when I'm talking to a woman, I'm looking at her face and eyes. I'm having a conversation with her face to face. I am not looking elsewhere. Okay, that doesn't mean I don't notice things, like if a woman's wearing a heavy overcoat or something. I'm trying not to be dumb and not see what a person's wearing. But what I'm saying is, as a man especially, look at a person respectfully. Treat that person as if you are looking at them for the purpose of giving them respect, showing them honor, and you are not looking at them in a lustful way. Okay, so I had a conversation not too long ago with somebody that came and they confronted me because I talked about this very passage of Scripture. And this is what Jesus says. He says, I say to you that everyone who looks at a woman with lustful intent has already committed adultery with her in his heart. Now, Jesus goes from, now there's a big difference between the Old Testament and what Jesus says about this idea of lust. And this is fascinating, if you'll let me digress for a moment. In the Old Testament, and I just heard some people that were talking about this. I know some of you might listen to him, but Ben Shapiro was having a debate with, I think, Dennis Prager about the meaning. They're both Jewish. And they were talking about the meaning of lust in the Old Testament. Well, in the Old Testament, behavior is essentially, how do I say it? Behavior is analyzed based on action, what you take, what action you take. Your behaviors are judged. But Jesus takes it a step further. He says, oh, no. I'm not just talking about how you are doing something. I'm talking about what you're thinking, how you are looking at someone. And the way you know that it's gone from just looking at someone and saying, oh, this is an attractive person, this is a beautiful lady, she's nice, to this is lust, I call it the second look. And that's the look where you are lingering on the look. You know, there's something going on the other side of that look where you're looking at them and you start to conjure images that you know are dishonoring to that person. That is what Jesus is talking about with lust. And it's an issue of the heart. And God knows the heart. Therefore, when you repeatedly do this, you are committing adultery, according to Christ. This is his words, not mine. Old Testament is easier on this than Jesus is. So this is what I'll say to you as a caution. Men, especially, I'm going to speak to men about this. Watch what you watch. Pornography. Different websites where you can go on, and there's subscriptions right now that you can buy and purchase to certain people. You're like, well, this is kind of it's a victimless crime. It's not victimless. It's not victimless at all. You are objectifying that person. You are looking at that person. And what I always think of when I'm thinking through this and how I ought to live when I'm treating women a certain way is that's somebody's daughter. I have a daughter. I don't want anyone looking at my daughter the way I know that some men look at women. Therefore, I bounce my eyes. I make sure that I'm respectful. I make sure that I'm looking at that person. I make sure that I'm trying to focus on what it is that they are saying and that they see that I am completely without this type of look. So, a lot of that to say, men, make sure you bounce your eyes. Women, if you feel that draw, make sure you focus on that person as a person and not with that lustful intent, because Jesus rips to shreds the idea, well, as long as you're not actually doing something, Jesus says, no. If you think it, you did it. And it's just as bad. So in Jesus' estimation, bounce your eyes, focus on them as a person and them as a child, and kill adultery.